You mentioned earlier about the shaman concepts in addition to the Taoist Wiccan concepts in ritual. How does the addition of the shamanistic concepts benefit the individual in the ritual process?
It's very important from a Wiccan standpoint, from a naturalist religion, to be able to have a direct route to the divine. Whether you call it God, Goddess, all there is, whatever name you place on it, that there is a process, and we find it through ecstasy. And not the drug, but the process of releasing the cultivated mind, the monkey chatter, and remembering our own divinity, and through sense and sounds and sexuality and so forth, we come to a place where we recognize our own divinity, and so we touch God, Goddess within ourselves, and have that primal connection restored. And the established religions, as Joseph Campbell pointed out in The Power of Myth, the established religions made a priesthood, and that added, the shaman had the original experience, and then the priest tried to recreate the experience for the masses. And then, of course, they began to charge for it and so forth. But forgotten and lost in that was the inherent ability for each one of us to be divine beings and to be connected to the divine, to receive answers to questions and to prayers, to be guided, and to be able to extend compassion beyond what we normally would think of.
Could you explain more about your approach to Taoist Wicca as a coaching system?
When I was developing the system, when I was kind of going through and creating the rituals, I was also busy with my massage practice. And I'd have people who knew nothing about Wicca, and they would come to me with a low backache, or they would come to me with a throat problem or a shoulder problem. And lo and behold, that would be a problem in the same area of the chakra with the same theme as the upcoming or just past Sabbath. Uncanny that I came to assume that our bodies and our psyches, the seasons are hardwired into our bodies and our psyches to do certain emotional and physical work at certain times of the year. And that requires a discipline of introspection. And then the rituals become a process of introspection.
And how do the chakras fit into this system?
Well, they're a way to tell you thematically. This is the lower first chakra is the right to have, it's the right to be here. Money, rent, food, shelter, and somebody is out of work and they have intense low back pain. So it's a way of kind of saying this is the disharmony is also in your psyche about these issues. And so you work on the issues as well as strengthening your back. Or getting a massage, or doing acupuncture, or doing whatever else you're doing to take care of it. So you take care of it on the physical, but you also acknowledge that there's something emotional and possibly even spiritual involved. Because if the energy can't come in, this is again a teaching from Ayurveda, from the chakra system as taught by Anna Dea Judith. There are two schools of thought in Ayurveda. one that the two primary meridians of energy come up and wrap around the chakras. That would be Kundalini energy.
Uh-huh.
And then a researcher named Anadea Judith came up with some ancient writings that described a downward current and an upward current. And in my observations, it is more the latter. It is more a fact that energy has to come down from idea into manifestation, and then we have to let it go. Just like you have to have an idea to build an oak table, go out and do that, and then when you're done with it, let's say you would put it on a big bonfire, and it burns, and all of that energy is released back.
Let's talk about your classes and how they relate to the 1 year seasonal Sabbath cycle.
Well, in a sense, each Sabbath is a class, but I do organize classes with a minimum of 4 people, and you can contact me at suzypeltier.com, and I can to arrange a class. The year is, as it is practiced, is an experiential practice. You come, you do the rituals, but you're also learning a lens through which you look at your life. And you're saying, gee, this is not, there's an organization to this. It isn't just stuff happens all the time. I'm playing a part in it. I have some choices here. And so it begins to be a practice of self-empowerment as well. Because you have to have the discipline to say, okay, every 6 weeks or so, whenever the Sabbath is, I'm taking that day off. I'm getting together with my margarita group or my baseball team or something, and we're going to do something other than what we're used to doing. We're going to do a ritual. And the ritual coming up, we're shooting this on the eve of Beltane. Beltane is the marriage between God and Goddess, but it also represents self-love within us. So you'd ask yourself, where am I on that self-love? Am I giving myself the love that is best for me? Am I? How would my life look different if I was loving myself fully? And that's what the ritual is based around, a self-examination question, and you go as deep as you go with it. Year after year, you understand it better and better.
One concept I found very interesting in your approach to ritual is your idea that ritual is very similar to performance art and drama, and that everybody has a role to play, and yet those roles kind of shift and change around from one ritual to the next. Nothing is stationary. It's in constant motion.
Mm-hmm. I do that for a couple reasons. Many people come to me without any theater background, or and are very shy in speaking in public at all. And so just having that handful of lines, they crunch the script and stress about that until they find out that we're a group based on mirth and reverence. So if I goof, we giggle. If somebody else goofs, we giggle. We just giggle and move on. Mm-hmm. Basically, that people learn to take themselves less seriously and find an ease with the work, and let the humor take the message in a little bit deeper. So we don't laugh through the whole thing. There's a deep reverence for what we're doing, but part of that fluidity is to give everybody a chance to be new at something and to grow with it and to know what it's like to experience the different jobs within a ritual. makes them more versatile, makes them more confident.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Uh-huh.
It definitely works for everybody involved, that everyone gets a new role to play. And it may not actually be their choice, but they are also feeling challenged by the new role the next time around.
Well, they can also
And-
always say,
and they
no,
can-
I don't want
yeah.
that part.
Right.
And usually what I do is let the gatekeepers, the people who call the directions, stay in a stationary and gate for a while and get to know the energy of wind and fire and water and earth, and let them really hang out with that energy and that spirit before I move them on. So, but then inevitably there's a part or two that somebody said they're coming and can't come now, and so forth.
Yeah.
So there's always the jostling around and the roulette table that we all sit in as to who gets tagged for what.
There's also the concept of deep trance in ritual, and the allowance for the transcendence of the collective soul spirit.
Well, you can always work alone. Solitary witches do quite well. My advocacy of working in a group is that a synergy can be built by that group if you're on the same intention. If you all come with that desire to increase self-love, then the synergy of the group takes you up to a level that you couldn't get to as a solitary practitioner. So, and I don't think being a solitary is going to cure the increasing isolation that's coming over the culture. Increasingly, we have our cell phones, and they're glued to our ears, and we have constant distraction to where the art of sitting down and having a eye-to-eye conversation with someone, and it seems to be a dying art. We've got, this plugged in and that plugged in, and constant demands on our attention that it takes discipline, but it returns you. Talk about remembering the ancients. This is the way the ancients communicated.
Yes.
And we need to keep that alive.